Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here, and today I want to showcase a build that I've been playing for the past few days, which is basically guided by and inspired by the Lord Kripparrian himself. He approached me with an Absolution build that he's been playing on SSF, which is basically a summoner with a few, little bells and whistles, and thought it'd be a really good character for me to try, especially as a summoner that, I basically never play, since it's a nice bridging gap between playing kind of normally and then having a bunch of summons and letting them do some powerful stuff for you as well. I decided to go ahead and do it just because Absolution is currently not very well known about or played by people, so it'd be a good showcase of a skill that came out last league and then got vastly buffed to be playable, and I of course had to put my Mathel spin on it and go for millions of damage and less on the defensive side of things. So Krip's character is on SSF and it's pretty attainable, and I'll show you what that's like as well, but basically he did help me through the understandings of what Absolution does, how it should be played, at least through his perspective, and how to build summoners just kind of in general. And from there I decided to also have a few little different inputs of going Doriani's prototype and taking it to its ultimate DPS conclusion. So in the end, this character maps pretty well. It's a pretty comfortable playstyle. It's fairly fun. Can be built fairly safe. I've got a decent bit of safety in the build at the moment, but not anything too crazy. I've instead gone infinite damage, and it's Doriani's prototype, which means that enemies around you have your lightning resist. The Absolution skill itself, basically, it's you attacking, and then you can summon up to three little minion guys, and they are the primary source of our damage. So we've got a lot of shit happening on screen, but pretty much all of the damage is coming from these three Absolution minions who use the exact same skill you're seeing me use, which is sort of like a instant sort of storm call, but the idea is to then buff them to the point where they're doing lots and lots of their own damage, lots of cast speed, and they hit really hard, that sort of thing. And by this point of the character, it is doing, I don't even know, it's hard to calculate. The POB is going to say like 15 million DPS, but I'm pretty sure it's something like 50 million, because this is comfortably the most DPS I've had, I think, on any build, and it is deleting content like no other. It can be a bit uncomfortable because the Absolution itself, basically, once you attack just an enemy and kill something, it will, or once you flag an enemy after attacking them, you basically put a marker on them, and once you kill them, it will summon an Absolution guaranteed. But for boss fights, the way around that is it's got a 25% chance to proc. So as you can see here, I get basically unlucky. I run into the Elder Boss. I attack several times with my Absolution. You got a 25% chance per attack to proc one of your bros. And if you get unlucky, then they're not going to show up for a few attacks. But if you get lucky, they can show up instantly and then delete content. So basically you just have to attack unique enemies or bosses and have a 25% chance to summon your minions. So it's similar to how Dominating Blow was a long time ago. You'd basically get lots of minions throughout clearing, and it was a good clear speed monster, but I think it didn't have any sort of single target potential because you couldn't generate any friends. And then I think it was fixed to, or not fixed, changed to have that. In any case, as you can see, the DPS is pretty silly against most bosses. So all of these guardians usually have another friendly guardian show up next to them, thanks to the Atlas passive in the center of the tree, and they're both getting deleted pretty comfortably almost instantly. I went ahead and did a 5-way, and I think this is the best DPS for a 5-way I've ever had. Pumped into a 4th wave of loot, and that's pretty damn rare for me. I think maybe I've done that once, something like that, and I died twice on this 5-way to just a couple of mistakes. It was not, super dangerous, but it's just stuff I fucked up, so it's entirely on me. But you can see the damage for the bosses is pretty damn clean if we can get on top of them nicely and have our minions going. The biggest flaw for this build that I've seen so far is just proximity bubbles. They are super annoying because you have to like convocation your minions inside them to make sure the prox bubbles will die from your minions' attacks. But otherwise, it's pretty damn smooth, and you can build this character to be quite a bit different, a bit thicker, without a Dorian's prototype if you really want, and it'll still have plenty of DPS. It just won't have this level of DPS, but it is somewhat a versatile template. Like, you can probably build it maybe a few other ways, but basically it's converting to lightning, having your absolutions do all your damage, and going crit for your minions, and then up to you how hard on the damage or the defense that you want to go, and how heavy you want to invest into a summoner, because summoners do have a lot of min-max, and you can go pretty hard, or you can make it just comfy, cheap, and beat most of the game anyway. So there's just this one clip I wanted to show of this is the Constrictor Guardian. As you can see, he's getting brutalized. When his friend shows up, he gets even more brutalized. So Enslaver shows up. I, during this fight, didn't even see a Guardian show up, and I was confused. I thought, wait a second, I'm going into another phase, and that means Constrictor's supposed to go to full life, another guy's supposed to show up, and then you fight two of them at once. Yeah, I didn't see it. I had to go replay it, and turns out the Enslaver who showed up got 3-shot by one of my minions. So, good stuff. So let me go ahead and show you how to build this character. Here is my current character, level 90 Necromancer called Absolutely Stole the Build. So Absolution, stole the build, basically given to it, given the build by Krip, but, had to make my own version of it, but guided me through how an Absolution can work at the moment. The Absolution gem, and excuse the crazy hat, the Absolution gem basically has a bunch of fizz to start with, and half of it gets converted to lightning, and you can summon 3 Sentinels of Absolution, so 3 of your minion bros. When you attack and kill like regular enemies, they'll get summoned basically guaranteed off of the back of those enemies, or they'll refresh the ones that you currently have, or 25% chance to summon a Sentinel on hitting a rare or unique. But if you've already got some up, then it'll just refresh their durations. So that if they're buffed, they're going to stay buffed, that sort of thing. And then essentially we get the other half of the damage converted, and then we try and scale some crit multi on them, and a lot of cast speed, so that they just shit on things. As you can see, I've got a pretty damn nice hat for it, and this came about by basically getting a Shaper Elder base. So you get, let's say, Hypothermia on one base, minion damage on another base, awakening them together. If you get lucky, cool. If not, what we're supposed to do is use Glyphic and Tangled fossils, I believe it was, and with those, if you put those in to a 2-socket resonator, it will give you kind of a random outcome as to something that's going to be greatly improved. So let's just say you can get greatly more minion modifiers, and then something that gets removed, and it will say like no attribute modifiers. So I think I've got a couple still sitting around that I can show you. Something like this, greatly more fire, and then no minion modifiers, and then as well as that we have corrupted essence modifier on there. So you have to use a few of them and get kind of like lucky as to what you want. Otherwise you can use these fossils on lots of different other items. So more gem, no minion, that can go on something else. More fire, no minion, so that stuff obviously doesn't apply for my things. But then it's also got corrupted essence, which I think I can't remember which one that is, the Tangled fossil, I think. And the idea is that we were fishing for socketed gems gain 50% of fizz as extra lightning. Otherwise 30% more LE damage is good too. And this particular hat I think had more minion or more gem rolls. I think it would have been more gem rolls, and I don't remember what else it would have been. And then the essence modifier, and this is what happened. I didn't personally end up making this hat. It was someone else from my chat, and they made it. It was like worse. It was +1 to socketed gems for minions, and these other rolls. I only had it up for sale for a few days, and it was 7 exalts, and no one wanted it because this isn't really a hat that is conducive to almost any sort of build. And then I made a different hat. We made a trade for them, but the way to get it better is you can also just 30 quality it through the bestiary, and then you can use tainted divines to re-roll all of those gems and minion roll. So it went from a +1 to socketed minion gems to a +3 through using the tainted divines, and that's pretty powerful stuff. Like, you can, you know, save a lot of hat this way that might just have +1 to minion and a few other rolls, and see if you can hire all the other shit. So anyway, yes, it's a very powerful hat. I'm not necessarily carried by the hat. Even without the hat, the damage is pretty insane. And at the moment, if you look at my POB, I've got about 7 million DPS per Absolution, which, like I said, I don't think is entirely accurate for how high we go. If we take all of our gems from the hat, put them in a 6-link chest instead, for example, so don't even craft a hat, just a basic 6-link chest, with some other supports, so we'd go to awakened minion damage and maybe a conk effect still, you'd end up getting, so like I said, 7 million, you end up getting down to like 4 or 5 million DPS per dude. And then you can also get like a +2 to your chest if you get, you know, the right chest, +2 AoE. You can get +2 duration. If you really want to try harder, you can get a +2 duration and a +2 AoE for a +4 chest. And yeah, so there's still a lot of min-max, and there's still a lot of stuff you can do, and that isn't necessarily this, or you can just not have that 50 fizz extra lightning, wouldn't be a big deal. You can miss out on conk effect, wouldn't be a big deal. Ultimately, yes, it's a nice hat, but please don't say that the build is entirely carried around it, because as you can see, billions of DPS, and you can still manage without such a hat, or with a different hat, or with a 6-link, etc. So in any case, socketed gems, or not socketed gems, plus gems to this build are pretty damn important. Like, if you get more plus levels, it gets quite a bit crazier. My current wand just has +1 to lightning skills. We do have +2 from the Necromancer Ascendancy as well, so that's why we're currently at gem level 27. Starts out with the 21, +2 from the Ascendancy, +3 from the item, +1 from our wand. These types of wands are pretty easy, or rather reliable to craft. Just get some essences. I grabbed a bunch of essences from minion essence, and then roll till you get a +1 to minions, +1 lightning, +1 fizz, any of that, and then try and finish off the suffixes yourself if you need to. And in this case, I just wiped the current suffixes and then used a veiled orb with prefix cannot be changed, and all you're really looking for is some minion cast speed, and then being able to craft this triggered shit, or you could randomly get the triggered stuff through the veil orb. And the importance of that is so that you can put your desecrate and your flesh offering there, and that automates the desecrate flesh offering system. Just as you're mapping, your minions will always have 30 cast speed, 30 movement speed, and you'll also have some yourself as well. So that's because of Mistress of Sacrifice. Offering skills also affect you, and it's nice to be able to automate this shit. You can go without it being automated, but it's a pretty cancer playstyle. The other ascendancy points, pretty obviously these, and then the thickness ones down here. So other things to mention, basically we're doing this prototype, so we do have to get some minus res across the board somewhere, and then try and bring up our life. Have this talisman to kind of counter the lightning damage intaken, and then also a bunch of armor. So similar build to my previous Durrani's character this league. One of these talismans, a bunch of armor, and it doesn't make you immune to lightning or anything, or, you know, completely cancel it out, but it's not a bad start, and you can start taking some lightning hits. So I've got minus lightning on my belt, minus lightning on the boots, basically reuse the same shitty boots. So minus lightning on my gloves, and I think that's it. So I haven't even min-maxed it to the absolute, you know, highest degrees. We're at -140 at the moment. I just picked up a ring that had the right resist and strength that I needed, so it doesn't have life or anything. It's not minus res. Been using Assassin Mark ring, has a bit of strength, bit of res, life. It is somewhat important to have Assassin Mark up, because you're the one that's going to be attacking and generating the Assassin Mark for your minions who do want that crit, because by default there's pretty much no minion crit anywhere to be getting. So what you do is get minion crit through one particular don't even know where it is. One particular mastery. There it is. Minions have 100 crit, and then mostly through power charges of your specters. Because the specters that we have here, basically I'm using two host chieftains and then one carnage chieftain. The host chieftains give off power charges, and the carnage chieftain gives off frenzy charges. And I think the power charges give like 400 crit to a minion per charge. And we got both of these from Act 7 in Ashen Fields. So we're just using those purely for power charges, and that's a shitload of crit for your character or for your minions, and then a little bit of crit also from Light of Lunaris. So we're basically wearing that and then using Necromantic Aegis, and that means that the shield that you're wearing no longer does anything for you and buffs your minions. So my minions get all that extra crit, bit of resists, and crit multi, and a bunch more crit multi on non-crits as well. The minions are also block capped, so 30 block there, block there, block there, block there. Not quite capped, but pretty close, I think. And then they recover life on block thanks to that. And yeah, that's their main defense, I suppose. But as well as that, we've got them res capped, and minions have 8 to all res. The absolutions don't really need any survivability. It's for everything else that we have, because we've got a few zombies that just help out for, you know, some level of meat shielding. So Raise Zombie, Feeding Frenzy, and Ruthless. They stun some shit too. We've then got a couple of golems, and in this case just lightning golem for some cast speed, mostly for yourself, so that we actually get our absolution procs going, and then summon stone golem over here just for a bit of extra regen. We have a animate guardian, and he is for the most part just a stat stick. So he's wearing a kingmaker, which gives us fortify and also some extra crit multi for our minions. He's wearing Gruthkul's pelt, which is just a bit of extra life and defense for himself. Yeah, I can't remember what they're called. Victorious Flight, I think it is. Boots makes all of us a little bit faster, which is that there. So that's the Kingmaker. Also gives Cull. Also wearing a increased damage Learcast, I think it is, hat. Just gives a bit of extra increased damage. And I've also given him some unnerve gloves. So he just has a 10% chance to unnerve enemies. And I think that's all that matters on him. Yep, so he's basically a stat stick and just does some extra things. So we've got Animate Garden over here, is Divergent for more minion life. We've got our Raised Spectre over here as well. Then Attached Elemental Army, Minion Life, and Meat Shield. Still just wasting this link over here, but we can get it to a blue probably and get Spell Echo, just so that my little chieftain dudes get power charges up easier. Otherwise, I'm not sure there's anything else to mention. Convocation, just to constantly bring minions back up to you so they start attacking again. Absolution, Fizz to Lightning, so we convert the other half. Crit damage, because it's pretty damn hard to get crit damage on minions. And then Spell Echo, because they get very nicely buffed by attacking multiple times. But for the most part, while I'm clearing, I use Summon Phantasms, because with this hat, using Conk Effect all the time means that their area isn't going to be that good. So I do use Summon Phantasms for extra clear and safety. And up to you if you want to do that. You don't have to. You can use something like Faster Casting or Crit Strikes more reliably, or Spell Echo if you can get enough cast speed. Because with low cast speed, Spell Echo during clear feels pretty shit. We then got Wrath, Generosity, and Zealotry. So you don't need those auras. Turn them into Generosity for your minions, and that gives quite a lot of extra damage for the Absolution bros. And we do have some buffed auras for that as well, and some passives to be able to fit in more auras. So that's why I'm using Determination, and then the Wrath and Generosity with Zealotry and Wrath. And then these nodes over here. We do grab Eldritch Battery because it costs a lot of mana, 137, but with the Eldritch Battery, pretty easy to maintain and then cast infinitely. Otherwise, just minion nodes. Still got an empty dual socket here. Grabbed anatomical knowledge just for a bit of life and stuff. More minion nodes. You can realistically do a cluster over here, but I honestly couldn't be bothered building into it anymore, so I just ended up unspecking and taking some extra crap. And then crappy little minion jewel and some minion stuff, minion stuff, minion stuff. And then ultimately, excuse me, I'll give you Crips build as well, basically as POB, which is without building into Doriani's prototype, just sort of a more basic approach, but still fairly fine-tuned for an SSF character. And you can copy that if you'd rather. It should be a lot easier to attain, but won't have quite as much power. But it is a more defensive version of the character too, that's like spell suppression capped and has a bunch more armor, and still does very respectable DPS. The whole reason he told me about it is because he's got very good damage and kills bosses. Not quite as quickly as I was doing on this, but still very quickly, and overall a very well-rounded summoning build. So in the next video, hopefully I'll take on some of the real big content, Feared, and some of the aspirational stuff. But for now, hope you guys enjoyed my first real summoning build, and Absolution is looking pretty good. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.